Well, you said I need no introduction, but I actually think in this forum I probably do need a bit of introduction because I am a chef and I run a restaurant called Noma, not too many kilometers from here actually. We've just closed it because we're building a new place. We've been open for 14 years, and 3 years ago we decided that the routine is becoming a bit too rigid. Our organization is becoming a bit too rigid. The creativity is not flowing as it should because our creativity, or excuse me, our routine, even though it's so comforting, it was actually stifling our way of looking at the fresh opportunities. So 3 years ago we decided to close it, to move to a new place. And when we decided to do that, I thought to myself, well, we're going to move to a new place, but what if we just fall into the same old routine? What does it matter then to close up? Because we have this way of thinking, how can we break free of that? So we decided that we'd do these pop-ups, that we'd pack up our entire restaurants, and we'd move everyone. And we did. We moved the entire team, we moved our families, we moved children, spouses, first to Japan. We traveled around Japan for 3 months, and then we went there and lived there for 5 months. 75 people, and we dove into the Japanese food culture, trying to learn and see things from a fresh perspective. It was incredibly rewarding. From there we went to Australia, went into the outback. And lastly, we've been in Mexico, traveling around Mexico and going to small villages, learning from a different culture, seeing things from a fresh perspective, seeing how food can be from many parts of the world. Of course, it's amazing. And actually, I can say now that when we're going to open next year, I feel challenged, ready, creatively ready to put another 14 years of work into this. So, as I said, my name is René Redzepi. I am almost 40. I have 3 children. I am the son of a Muslim Albanian immigrant. I lived partially in Yugoslavia, in the former Yugoslavia, until the war broke out when my father and Danish mother moved full-time to Denmark. I'm married to a Jew, and I cook Scandinavian food, or Nordic food, even though I've grown up eating Turkish food. From the Ottoman Empire. And at home we cook a variety of everything from the world, and my favorite food happens to Mexican food, not Danish frikadella or meatballs. The restaurant's been open for 14 years. We've had incredible success, incredible mind-blowing success. Today we operate 2 other restaurants as well, but Noma still to me is the main focus. Besides having Noma, we also have initiated some other projects. One of them is something that we call MAD. MAD actually means food in Danish. But we like that dual connotation, because today the world of food is mad. As I'm sure we'll hear over the next couple of days, all the problems there's with food and how it relates to everything that we do. Food, mad, mad. So I'm going to focus on talking about one project that we're very happy about. And it comes through a nonprofit called MAD. And we have several projects that we work on. It's not just about creating an incredible tasting menu every night for the lucky 50 people that's been waiting years to get in. It's also about using that knowledge to see how can we make things better. How can we use what we learn at the restaurant and implement that on a broader scale. That's what MAD is for. So I'm focused on one project that talks about the value system for food, which to us as cooks is something that we see as being very broken. The value system. How do we value food? All right, so 14 years ago, in a very cold and bleak area of Europe, although today it's okay, nice, we opened Noma. We quickly realized that historically the traditions of cooking and eating in our part of the world were not as rich as the standard barriers like France, Italy, Japan, China, Korea. In contrast to these storied cuisines, Scandinavian fare was pretty basic, built for vitality, not conviviality. Many traces back to the Protestant tradition in which enjoyment of food is sinful, like masturbation, and to a harsh climate characterized by long, dark winters. This was the core of what we set out to explore with our restaurant. We imagined that we would cook with the traditional Scandinavian winter staples, cabbages, onions, leeks, but we needed to look beyond root vegetables to fill the menu, obviously. So we sought out further ingredients from our wild and uncultivated landscape, thinking that new traditions, new flavors, new stories would evolve from that. And that was the starting point. Now picture our vast northern landmass with only 25 million people spanning 7 countries. This means that huge swaths of our landscape are cultivated, wild, or uncultivated wild, and everything in between. Exploring nature in this region was the discovery for us. And of course, that story, if you know this, has been told a million times. We're the foraging restaurant. I'm the foraging chef. I wear my clogs everywhere because I might find food on the street, which I actually do. We didn't do anything new, you could say. Foraging is as old as time. But we did rediscover flavors in the landscape that we thought were impossible to have in our cold corner of Europe. This was a big, big, big revelation to us. Not only did it fuel our creativity, but it drove us to become the very ones that we are. There's so many examples of surprises that we've had, like plucking grass from rotten seaweed. One of my best experiences that I've had in the early days of Noma, walking on a very, very shitty, rocky beach full of rotting seaweed, and I pluck this grass, and I just eat it. Talking about food safety is not the best thing to do, unless you, of course, have an affinity to on-the-spot diarrhea when picking wild food. But I took a bite of this plant, and it tasted like coriander. My favorite food is Mexican, and suddenly I was tasting this flavor of coriander right here in my own backyard, and it wasn't written in any literature, it wasn't cooked with anywhere. Or harvesting pineapple weed from the cracks of the sidewalk, that's chamomile. Or biting into a tiny little ant to find that it tastes like lemon. Yet through all of this exploration, it was a different kind of discovery that took us most by surprise. It was a new sense of urgency, a new sense of responsibility to nature, to which we owe everything. This connection to our place, I've never had that before eating. This connection to our place, I had never had that before being the son of a Macedonian Muslim immigrant in Denmark. I really hadn't. But suddenly, I was connected. The food did that. That little ant connected me to the place. And it gave us a new vision for how to treat the planet, the earth, an ethic of care that infuses every aspect of life. So this is what I want to talk about today. Because with this knowledge that we've gained since Noma's beginning, we spent more than 3 years at a nonprofit organization, MAD, working on a program called Wild MAD, Vildmad, wild food. The basic premises is very, very simple. Everyone in the world should grow up as a forager. Knowing your ABCs in nature, the flora, the fauna, the patterns of the landscape, and the rhythms of the season, to us, we believe 100% is as important as learning how to read and write. So in collaboration with more than 100 people, chefs, foragers, teachers, scientists, academics, designers, this house, we created this program for Denmark, but it can actually right now be used in most of Scandinavia. It has 3 parts. First, it's a tool for reading the landscape and decoding all of its culinary potential. We develop an app in English and in Danish that gets you outdoors and guides you through the various landscapes and seasons, from forests in spring to cities in summer. Until now, the knowledge of wild plants have been grounded in mostly science and medicine. Bringing together the knowledge of foragers and chefs, our app invites everyone to touch, to smell, to pick just a little bit, and to taste, and obviously also to cook the recipes, and then to share them with people. Secondly, and probably the most important one, that it's also a curriculum designed for school children in Denmark. What if our kids were able to stroll through the wild and pluck things like we do off supermarket shelves? Wouldn't that be something? Most kids today, they will recognize, cornflakes, but if you ask them to pick out a parsley leaf, they have no idea. All the time relating back to the value system, what are we teaching the children? It has to start at an early age. So this would get you outdoors. And we want our children to be raised to understanding what's growing around them, how to find what's edible. And we also want to teach them how to cook with it. They need to develop a connection to nature, to seasonality. With that, we believe come an ethics of care for the wilderness. Not just the wilderness, but also the urban and the rural lands. No matter how near or far away those lands are, if our kids are enriched by nature, if they see how much we depend on it, and if they grow up loving it, we believe they will fight for it and they will take care of it. This is what happened to us. It's actually incredible to see when a group of cooks, we see them all the time coming from around the world to work at Noma, tough New Yorkers that's seen it all, they believe, and they spend time in our kitchen and give them a few weeks. And I love to go out, and the first time they plunge their knees into the Danish soil and they pick a wild ramp, it's like a transformation for life. Suddenly it's not just a landscape they're seeing, but it's a larder. At last, guided foraging workshop led by Danish nature rangers. We've trained 50 rangers from corner to corner of Denmark. The rangers will offer workshops open to anyone who signs up, teaching you how to identify what's edible and not, how to harvest, how to cook what you find, which is very important, the missing link. We've been in a financial crisis for the last 10 years. Well, we've also been in a cooking crisis for the last 50 years. And how to take care of nature while foraging. We believe that one of the biggest problems with food systems around the world is that they are built on harmful values. Values that overlook the land and the hands that provide what we eat. There are no recipes for building new value systems. But we think one of the building blocks is a connection to where our food comes from, how it gets to our plates. I don't think this will surprise anyone in this room, but changing the value system for food by teaching principled practices from childhood age is one of the ways that we believe to plant the seeds of a revolution. So we're actually launching wild food today. And it is an amazing thing to actually be standing here in this room and to feel the distill of 14 years of knowledge and energy to be put into something that everyone can make their own. There's a public festival right now to celebrate the launch here in Copenhagen. But we have more ambitions than that. Our ambition is that vildmad, wild food, will serve as a model in Denmark. We hope that our program can be an inspiration for others to do the same in different countries and cultures, where the questions we've asked ourselves take on new relevance. And again, I have to propose you this question that I hope you will think about. What if everyone grew up as a forager? Thank you very much.